Hello guys, good morning everybody. Welcome to our YouTube channel. I hope I am audible to you guys and you guys are fit and fine. If I am audible and visible, just let me know. Just give me a confirmation whether I'm audible or not. Okay, so we're gonna start the session. Today's session is a very interesting session because there is a very special thing that has been done by the Supreme Court. I think everyone could see over here. Supreme Court says that it can end wait for consensual divorce. Very important. Now, I think everyone must be knowing this particular fact that there are a lot of divorce cases that are pending in various local courts. Sometimes one party wants to have a divorce, the second party doesn't want to have a divorce. And in certain scenarios, there is a situation where both the parties want to have a consensual divorce. But we see that those cases of consensual divorce are lingering in the local courts for over 6 to 18 months. So as a result, Supreme Court has said a very important thing in this context, that they have a power under Article 142 of the Constitution. I think everyone knows about this particular power that talks about judicial activism. Then they can use this exercise and let's say they can end the wait for consensual divorce by using powers under Article 142 of the Constitution. But this power which they are saying that they could use has to be used with great caution and with great care. And one thing, it is to be absolutely certain that there has to be absolute, let's say, presentation of facts that the marriage has broken, that there is let's say कि ये marriage को अब वापस जोड़ा नहीं जा सकता है. Specific words अगर हम use करें, that there is irretrievable breakdown of marriage if the separation is inevitable and the damage is irreparable. So as a result, in those scenarios, the Supreme Court can, let's say you can go to the Supreme Court, the aggrieved parties can go to the Supreme Court, and if they say that these are the facts and they are able to prove it, then Supreme Court can end that particular marriage for the consensual divorce. But there are certain things that are absolutely important that we guys have to understand, that judgment doesn't mean that people can rush straight to the Supreme Court for a quick divorce. ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको divorce चाहिए और फटाफट आप Supreme Court चले गए, नहीं. It means Supreme Court using great care and caution under Article 142 to deal with certain cases which comes to it by way of transfer, petitions or appeals in civil or criminal matrimonial disputes. या तो कोई पिटीशन ट्रांसफर हो सकती है या अपील्स के थ्रू वो मैटर इनके पास आ सकता है, then they could entertain those cases of consensual divorce. But there are certain things that you have to understand, that facts have to be presented and they have to be proved, and the major thing that they are saying is you have to prove that there is irretrievable breakdown of marriage and the separation is inevitable and the damage is irreparable. In those scenarios, Supreme Court can use the powers under Article 142 for consensual divorce. Supreme Court has been using this particular power under Article 142, let's say very rarely, but they do that when they think that executive has not taken enough action, so wherein we could say judiciary steps up. But one thing you have to understand, that this power is extraordinary and is being given to the judiciary under Article 142, and it talks about judicial activism. What it talks about? It talks about judicial activism. So this is the important news, that the front page news that we have, right? So ये बड़ा important matter है जो आपको पता होना चाहिए, आपके दिमाग में होना चाहिए. Now, I think everyone knows कि बिहार अपना caste census कर रहा है related to knowing the social and educational status of OBC caste. Similar exercise has now been undertaken by whom? After Bihar, Odisha begins survey of OBC caste. So you need to know बस इतनी information कि अब अगर हम बिहार के बाद बात करें, Odisha has also started the survey of OBC caste. So these are the two main front page news that we have in today's newspaper. Now quickly moving to the next page. There's nothing important over here, so I'm quickly let's say would be going to the editorial page. Now this editorial is related to the importance of constitution punctuality. Here they are talking about nothing but the same thing that we have discussed again and again, that is governor sitting on the bills, keeping it them for an indefinite time and not taking enough action. that is evident by the resolution that has been passed by the let's say Tamil Nadu government, urging the president to issue directions to the governor so that to make sure that they are, let's say, not sitting on the bills and are passing the bills within a particular time frame. Tamil Nadu government has also urged other states to pass certain resolutions. Now, in this context, the most important thing that we have to understand is that this all comes under this power, or let's say a bill is passed, then what are the actions that has to be taken by the governor? This all comes under Article 200 of the Indian Constitution. Just I'm going to make you revise this thing that is being let's say depicted in this editorial, where there are certain 4 options that are there for the governor. Either he can give his assent, bill को मंजूरी दे देंगे, या वो withhold कर सकते हैं. Second option, then the bill becomes dead. The third option is he can consider it for the let's say reserve it for the consideration of the president. After he reserves it for the consideration of the president, governor's role is now over. And the fourth option is he can resend it back again to the houses for the reconsideration. But one thing we have to understand, जब ये exercise वो कर रहे हैं powers governor, they are doing on the aid and advice of the council of ministers. But we have seen governor using his discretionary powers that are limited in a very let's say sense according to the constitution, but has been sitting on the bills. So this article talks about when we talk about constitutional positions, let's say when they have to act within a particular time frame. That is why the theme of this editorial is the importance of constitution punctuality. I hope this point is clear to everybody and you have read this again and again, and I'm telling you guys, for this year prelims 2023, this articles number 200, article number 201 are very, very important, right? Okay. Now, this article is related to basically one thing that we have to understand, that I think everybody knows, after the Hindenburg report that came out, right? That came out, and those basically अगर हम बात करें, वो cyber financial जो frauds होते हैं, वो एक company है जो basically what it does, it tries to, let's say, it presented a report that leads to, let's say, certain how expose the Adani group. So as a result, Supreme Court, if we say, appointed a committee consisting of 6 members, जो judges थे उसमें, SEBI के members थे, and technocrats as well. And in this particular regard, they had given the time frame of 2 months to look into the probes of this Adani group. But one thing has come up, that SEBI has asked for 6 more months to complete their findings related to this whole issue. Now the question over here is that if the matter is extended again beyond 6 months, then the whole purpose would be defeated, because investors, let's say, who invest in the stock market regulated by SEBI, would be disheartened and they would be demotivated, and there could be a perception that could result in outflow of money from the market. So as a result, this editorial says the time period that was given was to be ending on May 2, but they have extended, let's say, asking for, let's say, अभी कल आज होना था उसने खत्म, but they have asked for 6 more months. Let's say अब देखना पड़ेगा सुप्रीम कोर्ट का इस केस में क्या रिस्पॉन्स रहेगा. But that is not a good thing if we talk about the credibility, the transparency, and for the accountability of our, let's say, securities regulator, that is the SEBI market, right? So this article talks about this particular thing, and the committee that was appointed, you can write in your notes as well, was headed by Justice Sapre. Now these are the important questions that come in our examinations as well. The name of the committee is Justice, let's say, Sapre. No. There is a certain question that has been asked by Vikas Nagar. Money bill cannot be withheld by the governor. Money bill is to be passed. One thing you have to understand. It cannot be returned as well, right? I hope these 2 editorials are clear to you guys, right? If these are clear to you, just give me a little confirmation. Okay. So, right, these are the very, very simple things that are given in these particular editorials, right? Now this is related to a political remission, right? This is related to, अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं सत्यजीत रे के बारे में है, तो अभी इसके बारे में इतना डिस्कस करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Now, moving to the next part, nothing important over here. This text page is related to China's amended anti-espionage law. Now this is not in context of India, so we can skip this particular text page. Moving forward, coming to the next page. Now this is a particular thing that you have to understand. Just you have to know. If we talk about what are psychedelic substances, very important. Try to understand. Psychedelics are a group of drugs that alter the perception, mood and thought processing while a person is still clearly conscious. जब पर्सन क्लियरली कॉन्शियस है तो आपके मूड चेंज हो जाएंगे, थॉट प्रोसेस चेंज हो जाता है, उनको हम क्या बोलते हैं? वी कॉल देम एज साइकेडेलिक सब्सटेंसेस. यूजुअली द पर्सन्स इनसाइट आल्सो रिमेन्स अनइम्पेयर्ड. These are non-addictive, non-toxic compared to illicit drugs and they are less harmful to the end user. In India, according to the NDPS Act, it prohibits the use of psychedelic substances. Ketamine, a dissociative anesthetic with psychedelic properties, is used under strict medical supervision for anesthesia and treatment-resistant depression. अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं, we call about the NDPS Act, they have banned the use of this particular psychedelic substances, though they are less dangerous as compared to illicit drugs. But one thing we have to understand in this whole scenario that they have to be used. अगर हम use कर भी रहे हैं psychedelic substances को, they have to be used under strict supervision. Very important. Psychedelic drugs banned in India are emerging in research and promising way to treatment of resistant depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. अब ये इंडिया में यूज हो रहे हैं बेसिकली. अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं किसके लिए, अगर किसी को डिप्रेशन है, स्ट्रेस डिसऑर्डर आ रहा है, उसके बाद उसकी रिसर्च के लिए क्या ये मेडिसिन के फॉर्म में यूज करा जा सकता है कि नहीं किया जा सकता. सो दिस इज द पर्पस बाय विच दे हैव ट्राइड टू मेंशन इट. सो यू नीड टू नो व्हाट इज द स्टेटस ऑफ साइकेडेलिक सब्सटेंसेस अकॉर्डिंग टू द एनडीपीएस एक्ट, दैट दे आर स्ट्रिक्टली बैंड इन इंडिया. देयर यूज, हाँ मेडिकल यूजेज हो सकता है बट वैसे स्ट्रिक्टली यूजेज इनकी बैन है. राइट, ओके. Moving to the next part, nothing important over here, right? Political news ही है. Now, this is a very interesting thing that is coming. India leads in laundering Russian oil and selling it to Europe. Now, India has been, let's say, among one of the 5 countries that are being labeled as Landromat countries. Very important. You can write it in your notes as well. This is a potential question that could be asked in UPSC prelims as well. These are Landromat countries. Now question is, what are Landromat countries? These are those countries that buy Russian oil and sell processed products to European countries, thus sidestepping European sanctions against Russia. Now one thing you have to understand in this whole scenario, I think you know there has been a price cap that has been put on the oil of the Russia. And those countries are known as price cap coalition countries. But India has bypassed that particular, let's say, price cap coalition. They are buying oil from Russia, and India is the largest importer of oil right now if we talk about from Russia as compared to China as well. And what it is doing is, it is, let's say, buying the oil, crude oil, and then it is processing it and sending it to the European countries who are also the part of the price cap coalition countries. भाई वही कंट्रीज जिन्होंने प्राइस कैप लगा रखा है वो इंडिया से इनडायरेक्टली बाय कर रहे हैं जो रशिया का क्या है, अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं जो रशिया का ऑयल आ रहा है. और जो पोर्ट यूज करे जा रहे हैं प्रोसेसिंग के लिए, दोज आर, लेट्स से, वन ऑफ द पोर्ट इज बेसिकली ओन्ड, हैव अ स्टेक ऑफ रशियन कंपनी एज वेल. So those countries basically who are doing that the process I have told you, buying from Russia and selling it to the processed oil to the let's say European market, we call them as the Landromat countries. Very important. What we call them? We call them as the Landromat countries. Very important. ये पेपर में ना डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन पूछा जा सकता है क्योंकि आजकल नई नई टर्मिनोलॉजीज आ रही हैं, नए नए ऐसे क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं. सो आपको पता होना चाहिए लैंड्रोमैट कंट्रीज कौन सी हैं. और इंडिया लीड्स 5 कंट्रीज एंड टोटल हाउ मेनी कंट्रीज आर देयर? इफ वी टॉक अबाउट द लैंड्रोमैट कंट्रीज, देयर आर टोटल ऑफ 5 countries if I have to talk about which are Landromat countries, right? So this is the important thing that you have to understand. Okay, moving to the next part, nothing important over here. Now, this is a very interesting thing that you have to understand. Japan to train 1,000 Indian engineers for the bullet train project. I think everyone is aware that there is a high speed rail that is coming up between मुंबई एंड अहमदाबाद. आई थिंक सबको पता होगा और उसका नाम बुलेट ट्रेन भी कह सकते हो आप, और मुंबई अहमदाबाद हाई स्पीड रेल, राइट? मुंबई अहमदाबाद हाई स्पीड रेल. नाउ दिस पर्टिकुलर रेल इज बीइंग बिल्ट with the help of Japan. And if I have to talk about the name of the agency that is instrumental in setting up of this high speed rail, whose with financial assistance we are getting, let's say, this high speed rail between Mumbai to Ahmedabad, that, let's say company is or agency is JICA. JICA is the Japanese International Cooperation Agency. Very simple, Japanese International Cooperation Agency that would be having the financial assistance, let's say, and would be setting up this high-speed rail. Now, this type of bullet train system in Japan is known as the Shinkansen high-speed railways. Now, you can be asked this question as well. What is this Shinkansen high-speed railways? This is related to bullet trains, and this is a terminology that is being used in Japan. Now, if we have to talk about Shinkansen, they particularly have a specialized, let's say, track system that is also going to be set up in India if we have to talk about the bullet trains. And that type of system is known as the J-slab track system. I'm telling you guys, this is a very, very important prelims fact. So, India में एक अहमदाबाद के बीच में हाई स्पीड रेल आ रही है मुंबई और अहमदाबाद में. And one thing you have to understand, it is being built with the assistance of Japanese International Cooperation Agency. It is also known as, let's say, Shinkansen system, that is the bullet train system. And they would be using the J-slab track system, that is a very, very important component for these high-speed rails. Now, under this context, Japan would be training 1,000 Indian engineers for this bullet train project. क्योंकि मेन काम क्या है, आपको ट्रेनिंग वगैरह प्रोवाइड करनी है, ट्रैक सिस्टम कैसे बिल्ड करना है, तो आपको ट्रेन का पूरा सिस्टम पता होना चाहिए, कैसे ट्रैक्स यूज करने हैं. So in this regard, one thing we have to understand that this Japanese International Cooperation Agency would be nominating a particular non-profit organization, and that non-profit organization is JATS. ये नॉमिनेट करेगी इसको, बेसिकली एजेंसी को, that would be giving the training to 1,000 Indian engineers for the bullet train project. So it is very, very easy to understand what is this whole matter. Now, one thing in this context as well you have to understand कि अगर हम overseas development assistance की बात करते हैं, जो जापान लेट से प्रोवाइड करता है, India is the largest recipient. I'm telling you guys, this year we can expect a question on India-Japan relations because Japanese Prime Minister was here few months back, right? आपने वो इमेज देखी होगी जहां पे वो मोदी जी के साथ गोलगप्पे खा रहे हैं या पानी पूरी खा रहे हैं, right? I hope you know or remember that particular thing. और बदले में अगर हम बात करें, मोदी जी ने उनको एक बुद्धा का स्टैच्यू भी दिया था, right? So this is a very, very important thing that we have to understand कि इंडिया बहुत सारी ओवरसीज फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस लेता है, कहां से? जापान से. And if we talk about certain dedicated freight corridors that are coming up in India, I think you would have heard about it. Eastern dedicated freight corridors, Western dedicated freight corridors. They are also being built with the help of Japan, right? So Japan assistance is very, very important for certain projects that are being, let's say, implemented in India, right? Okay. Moving to the next part. अच्छा, ये बड़ा important है. Inaugural ASEAN India Maritime Exercise in South China Sea from today. Now, very, very important. There's gonna be, we could say, ASEAN India Maritime Exercise, and the name of the exercise would be AIME. That is ASEAN India Maritime Exercise. Because it is the inaugural exercise, it becomes very, very important from an examination point of view. Now, one thing we have to understand that these particular, let's say, this ASEAN India Maritime Exercise between the, let's say, maritime, we could say that would be happening, they would also be participating in the International Maritime Defense Exhibition and International Maritime Security Conference. Now, these are the two things that we have to understand in this particular context. कि ये इस एक्सरसाइज में भी पार्टिसिपेट करेंगे और ये हमारी पहली, अगर हम बात करें, एक्सरसाइज हो रही है कहां पे? साउथ चाइना सी के अंदर. एंड दिस इज गोना बी हेल्ड एट चेंगी नेवल बेस. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, चेंगी नेवल बेस, राइट? सो इन द साउथ चाइना सी. आई होप दिस पॉइंट इज क्लियर टू एवरीबडी. Okay, now this is an important thing that you need to know, that the new Chief Justice of Calcutta High Court is the Justice T.S. Sivaganam, right? अगर हम बात करें, Justice Sivaganam is the new Chief Justice of the Calcutta High Court, and you need to know the process through which the Chief Justice is appointed, let's say. One thing you have to understand, the senior most judge becomes the CGI. Second thing, the name is recommended by the Supreme Court Collegium to the government, let's say to the Law Ministry, and then let's say to the Justice Ministry, and the Department of Justice has finally approved that this particular person would be the Chief Justice of the Calcutta High Court. तो ये प्रोसेस हमें पता होना चाहिए, right? Okay. मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट. ओके, ये आपको पता ही है क्या चल रहा है, सारा कुछ है ना, रशिया, सूडान, सब कुछ पता होना चाहिए. अच्छा, ये चीज इंटरेस्टिंग है कि उज्बेकिस्तान प्रेसिडेंट विंस रेफरेंडम टू रीराइट द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. बस इतनी चीज पता होनी चाहिए. उज्बेकिस्तान में एक रेफरेंडम हुआ है जहां पे वो रीराइट करेंगे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को, एंड द करंट स्टेटस ऑफ दैट प्रेसिडेंट इज दैट ही हैज हैविंग अ टर्म ऑफ ओनली लेट्स से टेन्योर ऑफ 2 years. So right, they would be amending it so that the president could be again there for the next let's say 2 more terms with this particular tenure of 2 years. So this is why they have hold the referendum, and they are saying they would be rewriting the constitution, right? So this is the important thing in this particular context. Okay. Now ये GST revenue की बातचीत है जो हमेशा चलती रहती है और इसमें कुछ important नहीं है. And finally we are done with our today's analysis. एक चीज important है, आप देख सकते हो, Trade Pact lifts India exports to UAE to $31.3 billion. Very, very important. I think you must be aware कि हमने last year we signed an agreement with free trade agreement with UAE. That is the comprehensive economic, we could say, the partnership agreement that has basically resulted in increase of our exports as well. दैट इज वाई इंडिया ने ऑस्ट्रेलिया के साथ भी किया है और इंडिया ईयू के साथ भी चाहता है, इंडिया यूके के साथ भी चाह रहा है और काफी सारी कंट्रीज के साथ कोशिश कर रहा है. इट शैल हैव अ फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट दैट बेसिकली अलाउज मोर प्रोडक्ट्स टू बी इन द ओवरसीज मार्केट विदाउट हैविंग मच टैरिफ्स, और उसके ऊपर ज्यादा ड्यूटीज भी नहीं लगती है, जिसका फायदा किसको होगा, इंडियन एक्सपोर्ट्स को होगा, एंड ओवरऑल इट वुड बेनिफिट द ग्रोथ एंड द जीडीपी ऑफ द country, right? So this were the important news and the articles that we had from today's newspaper. Important thing that is going on is the Karnataka elections. We have to see what happens on May 10. Second thing that you have to understand is there is the issue of governor that has been going on and on. Third thing, SEBI की committee है. Fourth thing that you have to understand is the issues that are related to divorce, which the Supreme Court has said they can end the consensual divorce under Article 142 of the Constitution by using the powers under Article 142 of the Constitution. Then we had this particular Japan training our 1,000 workers, and then we had our Indian ASEAN maritime exercise for the very first time that is to be held in the South China Sea. So guys, this is it for today. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. Otherwise, I'm going to end the session. अगर आपके कोई डाउट्स हैं पूछ सकते हो. देखो Musina Ahmed, I don't know about those 5 countries. I know India and China are among those 2 particular countries that are the landromat countries, right? That are basically taking the oil from the Russia. Okay. So Rajinder Singh has cleared our confusion. He has named those all 5 landromat countries. Thank you, Rajinder. Okay. Hanji, any other doubt anyone has? We can take up your doubts. Otherwise, I'm going to end the session. And quickly tell me one thing. How many of you are appearing in 2023 prelims? Just type yes, those who are appearing in 2023 prelims. सी ये तो है, अब थोड़ा बहुत तो होगा, पर एशियान के साथ हमारा काफी अच्छा एग्रीमेंट्स हैं, वो तो हम कर ही रहे हैं साउथ चाइना सी के अंदर. इंपैक्ट तो क्या करेगा, वो भी कर रहे हैं, हम भी कर रहे हैं, राइट? जरूरी है करना अपनी इन्फ्लुएंस बढ़ाने के लिए, अपने आप को ट्रेन करने के लिए एशियान कंट्रीज के साथ. तो दीज एक्सरसाइजेस आर वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ऐसे तो अभी हमने इंडिया और यूएसए ने भी किया था उत्तराखंड में, दैट वाज ऑब्जेक्टेड बाय चाइना एज वेल. बट ऐसे चीजों का टेंशन नहीं लेते हैं ज्यादा, थोड़ा अग्रेसिव भी खेलना चाहिए. हाँ जी, बस 5 लोग अटेम्प्ट दे रहे हैं दिस ईयर. Okay, so I know that 5 of you are going for the prelims. One thing I have to tell you guys, that those who are going for the prelims, these type of statements and questions are very important. You have to be focused on Russia-Ukraine war. You have to be, let's say, give your all related to सारे facts clear होने चाहिए Russia-Ukraine war के related. Then India-China relations very important. Right, we are getting a lot of questions from the geopolitics and the international relations. So these things are very very important. President, Chief Justice, Judiciary, Executive, these things are very important. अगर हम आज की बात करें, क्योंकि ये ज़्यादा न्यूज़ में रहे हैं as compared to fundamental rights, right? तो ये चीज़ें important है. Keep your, let's say, give your best, and I hope you are able to clear your prelims. So thank you so much, guys. We will see each other tomorrow, same time 9 AM. Till then, thank you. Take care. Bye bye.